And we're live. Hey, how's everyone doing? Well, and whether or not you've come online yet, what I'm going to do is I'm here. I'm at the distillery alone today, pretty much. And it's been quite a while since I've actually posted some videos. I do have a couple in my computer that I need to actually sit down and spend some time with to do the editing and everything else. But with the pandemic and everything else that's going on, we have been diligently switched over to doing pretty much everything heading towards Sanitizer, and we're just pushing the stills. As you can see behind me, the still's just finishing up. I'm emptying the mash tun, and I'll be doing that throughout this as well. The intent is that we're trying to hammer the system as hard as we can. We have extra mashes being brought in from breweries, and we're running through the still. I did a few days ago, I did a 1,000-liter run, actually in still one, which is hidden behind this mash tun. I did a 1,000-liter run in 3.5 hours. It was the fastest I've ever pushed these stills. And right now I'm running the copper tower and this vodka tower. Just to purify it, so I'm coming out at about 90, 92. That's what I'm collecting at. And if I fired up the second tower, then I can get her at 95, but I just don't need to because we're cutting it down to 70%. And then we're packaging it up and we're sending it out to covidhealth.ca. So, and I'll mention that a few more times. It's the branch of where we're donating this stuff to, the alcohol to, and or sanitizer, we're actually finishing off, and then they distribute it to where it needs to go. So hospitals, frontline workers, even up north in to Inuit country, and look after those communities, which are they're hurting more than anyone. So I have, if you've looked over in the comments, at least over here on me, you'll see that I put in a link. If you want to come online and have a chat with me, by all means, just pop that link in your browser. It'll bring you here, and I'll look down and we'll bring you online and you can have a chat with me. Or if you just want to ask questions, I'm good with that too. So right now we only have one person up there, and we've been here for 2 minutes. I thought, this will break the boredom a little bit. It's middle of the day. Most of you are still at home. Hopefully some of you got a chance to do your gardens and all the outside work around your house, and you're still doing your distancing. But yeah, it's a bit of a time. So I'll leave this on, and if you pop in, I'll be able to hear you once you enable your mic. If you just send questions, I'll keep checking back and have a look at that. But for now, I still need to go scrape out that mash tun, and we'll get that done. All right, so come back when you're ready. So what I'm doing right now is we're doing just straight form runs basically for the sanitizer. And we're running the fermenter, well, we're running all 6 fermenters. And right now I'm 2 behind. So this is the first run that I've done. And I did one last night, it was pretty late. I cleaned that out this morning. But now I'm cleaning this out, I'm going to reload it again and do another run. Just to try and catch up. And I'm doing some pretty neat things to it. It's kind of a neat time to experiment because we're not bringing much flavor on a lot of this. And I don't have any turbo yeast, that's all gone. And a lot of the yeast that I normally use for laudanum, that's pretty much gone too. So, and that's a fairly fairly pricey. So what I'm doing is I'm using Red Star. It's available. I still have quite a stock of it. And it's allowing me to try and get through a lot of this quicker. Although what I am doing is, I'm checking the pH and nutrients and everything else. I am adding nutrients to this. I normally don't have to. But I'm double yeasting. So I'm going almost double the amount of yeast that I would normally use. And I'm fermenting everything for 4 or 5 days. Which for a bread yeast, 1,300 liters bread yeast, 1,300 liters wash, mash, and a bread yeast. That's pretty good time. So I'm looking over here. I can't see how many people are online, but I can see the questions that pop up. And there's one just popped up, so I'll come back and have a look. Hey, Mike, how you doing? So, like I said, we're just around the distillery today, and not a whole lot. And we got Travis as well. So, yeah, so I'm just here alone. No customers have walked in recently, so I thought, let's have a little fun. You guys haven't seen me in a while. Just time after time of sanitizer. So I'm running the stills minimum once, usually twice a day. There's large breweries now. If you're in Canada, you would recognize Waterloo Brewery, which has some really nice product. Cowbell Brewery, which are also bringing me mash as well. Actually, Cowbell tomorrow will be delivering me 50 kegs. That's going to be a chore to open them up and pour them in, but that's something I got to get done. So yeah, it's once again, I haven't been on in a while. I've got 2 episodes in my computer that I need to spend time and just edit them, and I haven't had the time. So constantly running here. Guys, if you look, over here, I put a link in the top there. So if you actually want to chat, do a video chat, just click on that link, and you'll pop up in my background here, and I'll bring you online. So, okay, so Cameron asked, what gravity am I shooting for in the corn? You know what, I'm using a recipe I'm very familiar with, so it's the same one I'm using for my liquor. Because I'm using a bread yeast, I can't go over 10 or 11%. And I'm firing the bread yeast off pretty quick. I'm doubling it up actually in order to get it to go faster. So I'm aiming, and always have aimed, between 1.075 to 1.082. I'm pretty much everything, I've dialed it all in. So every mash, so that's 1,300 liters of liquid that I'm basically getting 1.080. So that's where I'm pitching at. Just finished. So fermenter 2 back here. I don't know if you can see the lid's still open on that. That was just cooling a bit. I haven't turned the water jackets on because I just shut the still down, and I need to switch it over so I can cool the jackets a bit. And also my fermenters are, when I designed them, I designed the, let me start again. I designed the mash tun that steam jackets can actually run cold as well. So that I thought, okay, well, once I'm done, I can crash my mash down to the pitching temperature and then move it over to the fermenters. But then I thought, you know what, I really don't want to stress out my mash tun that much. Doing a cold right after a hot, it would be probably a little too much for it, at least in the wear over time. So what I did is I designed my plumbing that all my mash, when it's done in the mash tun, all my mash goes through a pump out the bottom of the mash tun. You're backwards here than where you normally point. So it goes out the bottom of the mash tun, and it goes through a pump, which pumps it up to the top of the fermenters, and then drops it into the fermenters. Now, the intent of this was originally, if I cooled it down in the mash tun, got it down to below 90, when I went to pump it into the fermenters, as it's dropping down into the fermenter, it would aerate. So it was self-aerating and saved me from having to put an aeration block in. And then, I decided not to do the cooling. Once again, the mash tun's all set up to do it. I decided not to use the mash tun to cool. I have cooling jackets on the fermenters. So what I do now is, once I move the mash over to the fermenter, I just let it sit for a bit, turn the jackets on, let them start to cool, and then I opened up the valve at the bottom of the fermenter and pump it through, and it drops in the top. So it basically cycles through the whole thing and cools itself as it's doing it. So it's just a large enclosed system, and it works like a charm. So if it's going into the fermenter at 140, 150 degrees, I just once I'm ready to turn the cooling jackets on. That's what these dimple jackets are on the fermenters, and then that cycles cold water through there. Turn the pump on, cycle the mash right around, bring it up the bottom, drop it in the top. Once it gets below 90, it starts aerating itself, and that creates a far better mash to work with. So yeah, trying to push it in the beginning, and using a new the Red Star, which I haven't used before. It was just available. What I would normally have, I've used up and everything else. So I wasn't happy. 4 of my fermenters actually stalled out on me, and it drove me crazy figuring out what was going on. So now, since then, I've aerated every batch, every mash, which it didn't have to do in the past. So I'm aerating them pretty heavily and adding the nutrients, which I would not normally have to do to a corn. And now I'm just, double pitching my yeast. So what I would normally use, I just double the number of my yeast, and it's ripping through these mashes. I've got the couple beside me here. They're sitting at 80 degrees. They've been there for the last 3 days, and they should be done tomorrow. So it's ripping through that stuff pretty quick. So does the recipe change when you're making? Yeah, sorry, I think I just answered that. Hey, Ed, if you're still on, Ed, there's a link at the top under Distilling Canada. Click on it and come join me. Or anyone. If you want to just talk verbally or chat, that's great. Like I said, I'm trying to kill some time, and while I'm getting bored and I need adult supervision. All right. So our sanitizer, we're supplying COVIDhealth.ca, which is distributing it to the hospitals, the units, and where it needs to go, as well as we have it at the storefront as well. We're using the World Health Organization's recipe, so it is the 70% alcohol, ethanol. And nice thing about it is it's the first time I've never had to worry about my heads or my foreshots or even my tails. I'm just running it all. And you can see the big bin, the big steel bin, that's it collects into that. And then I just roll it over to the table and we bottle it. We have to add hydrogen peroxide to it, and we have to add glycerin to it. If we do small little bottles of a hand sanitizer, we add aloe vera. The only problem is we're having a problem getting those small bottles. So we're using spray heads right now, spray bottles, and we're doing 900 milliliter bottles. It works out well, and as a lot of you know, I build cars and everything else, so I'm always busy, always working with my hands. And this is the softest my hands have ever been. It's most bizarre. I've never had them like this before. So maybe next time. I've got a couple things to take care of while I'm listening. Aww. Does anyone else want to come on and talk? So who else we got? Gravity. Travis, what's up? Yep. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I still have the mash tun empty out, and I want to do one more mash today, get that running. The stills have just shut down, so we're done with that. I think I'm not going to run them again. How do you keep it from separating? Well, the aloe is the wife has been doing that. I'm not sure how she's done that one. The glycerin doesn't separate, so I have no issue with there. Once we stir it up, it's great. The small ones, the wife was doing that. So Lisa, she's in here quite often. She's not here today, so which is kind of neat. It let me play a bit. I did up a cinnamon liqueur today, and I just put that on the shelf. Well, actually on our tasting counter. We'll see if customers like it. I've been wanting a nice cinnamon, not like Fireball, which is just it's a burnt heavy cinnamon. I've sweetened it up and made it more of a liqueur, and I use a simple syrup with it, and just saturate the cinnamon in there for a while, macerated, whatever, and it's looking pretty interesting. I'm thinking I might even add a touch of cherry, just to enhance it a little bit. It'd be worth a try, anyways. And Johnny's working too. Boy, everybody's working. I thought for sure Ed would have time. Hey, geez. All he's doing is drinking bottom shelf whiskeys. Although, how much does he actually have on that bottom shelf? Wonder how much he got grabbed before he got sequestered at home. All right. Anyone else? Questions? Or should I go back there and start on that mash tun? No, nothing. So where are we at? Well, let's just recap. I can do that. So we've been open here at the distillery for just past 5 weeks now. We're doing exceptionally well. Our moonshine is going quite well, and that's a 3 grain moonshine. We use corn, oats, and wheat, and we distill each one separately. So the corn that goes through, and then we collect the oats. That's on another ferment, and then we blend in the end. But that also allows us to use each one of those separately. So when we're doing a liqueur, we'll try all 3. Our moonshine, we'll try that in there. If not, then we'll go to our white totes, which we have the alcohol sitting at a higher ABV, and we have the separate corn and oats, and we'll try them separately in a liqueur and see, does it enhance the flavor, or is that the way you want to go? So that's a bit of the fun we've been having, and we have close to 10 liqueurs now. We were supposed to have fired up the vodkas, but we got hit with the COVID. We've been asked and requested, since we have the capacity, to make Sanitizer, and all the time that was supposed to be spent on getting everything done for the vodkas, it's been put right into the stuff. We had a huge supply for our moonshine, for our liqueurs. We still have another 500 liters set aside for that, so I don't have to make anything for that for a bit. It'd be nice to get into the vodkas, start getting them done, but yeah, until this crisis is over and I can have a little more lead time, every still run has been Sanitizer. So, and we can see right here, there's a whole skid of corn there. I just finished another 2 skids actually. This skid was actually donated by the feed mill. It's local to us, the one I go to as a rule. So this will get completely 100% turned into Sanitizer and be distributed to the hospitals and that sort of thing, and frontline workers. Our vodka, yeah, hopefully we get on that next month. It was supposed to be this month, because I need to get that narrowed down so we can start firing up for the gins. So, the gin basket's sitting right there. We have some other plans with that too. So, when we do rums coming this fall, that's at least the timeline. We're actually going to load that gin basket with a few things. We're going to do a toasted coconut. So we're going to do some in the mash, as well as we're going to infuse it using this thing. And same with our spice. When we do spiced rum, we're going to do that. So, and we'll get used to it when we do the gins and figure out how well that thing works and what it does do. So So I just read Ed's reply there. He's got less and less, honestly. So I'm thinking he's been nipping a little more than he's been reviewing. So yeah, I can't blame you there. The only problem I have, Ed, is I can never run out. Even if I'm doing sanitizer, the heart's cut that's coming off this, it's the corn that's coming off. Even though I'm running it hot, it still tastes good. And I was surprised because, like I said earlier, the Red Star yeast, we don't use it. The sanitizer is the first time I've ever had Red Star, or I've ever tried Red Star yeast. And I've used other bread yeasts before. Typically, we use Lullamend and a couple others, depending on what flavor profile we want. So I figured with the sanitizer, I couldn't get anything. I'd already depleted most of what I had here in stock. So I thought with the Red Star, which I got at Costco, I got a couple of large cases of it. I thought I'll give it a try because I'm just doing my specific gravity is 1.080, so it's not, at least in any other bread yeast I've used, it wasn't toxic, and usually I can ferment right down to 1 or even less. But I found that the Red Star, it gave me some issues, and because it happened so many times over and over, I really believe that once it went. Now, it wasn't instant. It was just a regular yeast, and we gave it the time. Once it went over 8%, everything stopped. It just stalled. pH was fine. The temperature was good. Nutrients we added to it and everything else, and we just had it stall out. So now what we've done is we're a little bit warmer. We're sitting at 80 degrees right now. And we're doubling up on the yeast. We only have Red Star. That's all we have. And I've got 3 fermenters here that have double batch of Red Star. So I've loaded twice the amount I've normally used, and it's chewing through it now. So, and we've done a few other steps to make sure we had the aeration and all that. So just, it's kind of neat when you're trying to get alcohol, which is something we never really concentrated on. Our leading factor has always been, and mine has always been, flavor. So 100%, I don't care how much alcohol comes out of these things. I just care what the flavor is. And that's why I run the stills really slow. So typically I'll get the stills there, and I'll end up with about, an 8 to 10 hour run. And now with the sanitizer, I'm ripping through the fermenters in 3 to 4 days, and I'm running it all in the still within 4 hours. So that's been a pretty bizarre experience. So I'm sure you're tired of just talking to me or listening to me. Let's bring Ed on. He decided to join us. Hey, Ed.
Hey, what's going on, man?
How's
the hand sanitizer business?
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, they left me alone here today, so I needed more adults around.
Well, I'm not going to be able to help you with that.
Well, yeah, okay. So how are you surviving?
I'm doing okay. Am I lagging? I look like I'm lagging.
You know what, Ed? Ed, I'm gonna need you, if you could do me a favor. I just had a customer walk in. I'm gonna leave you alone for just a minute.
Oh no. Hey. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Still in Canada with your new host, O'Mara from the Rock Cover Review. I am very unequipped to lead this stream. So yes.
Oh my God, I feel so bad. Sorry, Ed. You just come on and I don't jump and leave.
No worries, it's all good.
We've been today's Tuesday. Tuesdays is quiet in here as a rule. All my sanitizer went out yesterday. I restocked it this morning. But yeah, so Tuesdays I'm normally just hammering on this stuff, and occasionally someone out of the blue comes in. So, and usually between 1:30 and 3:30, no one. So I thought, yeah, this is a good time.
Sure. Yeah. So are you completely moved over to hand sanitizer at this point? Are you not doing anything for consumption?
Yeah, we damn. I'll return.
Yeah. Is anyone else not at work right now, or are all of you guys working?
Okay, so I'm just gonna bring these guys over.
The liquor store I work at is.
I'll bring everything out.
It's down 6 hours a day. So I'm not getting any work. I don't know about you guys.
So guess what? You're coming out with me.
Cool. I'm excited.
I'm gonna set you up here on top of the 3D printer.
Hello, everyone.
So how are you folks doing? This first time in?
Yeah, my mom's been in before, but yeah.
Ah, okay.
This time.
All right. I just work over at Tito's doing delivery. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So there's the ones that there's $16.99 for those bottles, $17.99 for one. So if you already have spray in, that's or just pour it on a cloth. I have a bottle that I'm putting it in. Yeah. So I just put it on the cloth, and that's what I use to wipe the counters, wipe my hands, and everything else. All right.
Consummate professional.
You said you can only do credit and debit right now? You don't do credit. Okay, so.
Yeah, these customers are just very wonderful. You know what I say about Canada? I sure do love Canada. Never said a bad word about Canada.
Okay, so debit? Yeah, credit. Oh, credit. Visa or MasterCard?
They do. They're kind of Canadian. They do. With the sleds and maple syrup.
This one? This just one.
All that stuff. What else is Canadian? Flat 40. Flat 40 is Canadian. Love Flat 40.
No reason to buy it. It's actually fine.
Good content you guys are watching right now.
Just keep that in your hands.
It's the real poke.
You want to try something different? Probably not right now. Never had the same reason before. Well, you can once again, that does say decline audio. Yeah, no, you can't take cash right now? I can. Yeah.
More guests now that here. Chat amongst ourselves.
And it could be just funky system. So, yeah, it's yeah. It is entertaining.
Our generation of Tito's are like that sometimes.
Yeah.
I didn't drop them all. I didn't get the box from.
I built it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I used to be so into it when I was younger. And I got off of it. Like,
Yeah.
this whole crap going down, I'm thinking I might go back.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to watch. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
get kind of abstract on March.
I hope I will. Yeah, that one's actually been on TV, and the TARDIS has been on TV. They did use already as a show. So I actually did that one with Peter Capaldi.
That's so cool.
So we're just talking about the TARDIS right now.
Oh yeah, there it is.
And then the Daleks.
Yeah, so no, they're actually, and also that face mask was made for my face.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, that is super cool. How was Peter Capaldi?
Really nice. Last year I did a Make-A-Wish inside that Dalek. So we went to the Royal Hotel, and they flew the child in from out BC. I met up with Peter, and we spent 3 hours with the child. I was inside that for a little over 3 hours. So, yeah.
Have air conditioning?
No. But it does have a fire extinguisher, it shoots CO2 gas, and I shot Peter several times.
Oh, that is amazing.
How long did it take? Sorry? How long did it take? That one there took me 3 weeks. Pretty fast. Yeah, it is.
What about later?
Took me a month.
And it's all to size, right?
It's exact dimensions, yes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That is
the inside to exact dimensions? No, but I got stuck in that one time. We were at a show, and I got stuck in there with Peter, not Peter. Barrowman, John Barrowman.
Oh, okay.
So he is a little different than what you saw, well, maybe not so much what you saw on TV. But actually, we're in that, and I don't know what you had for lunch. It did not smell good.
Oh no!
Yeah. We're in there, and he's actually going like this. And I'm going, are you kidding? Yeah, I'm stopping it.
Oh my god.
All right, folks.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
How's it going?
All right, take care. So the one thing that we seems kind of weird is we've checked, because we add hydrogen peroxide to our ethanol, we don't have to ID someone, which is kind of weird because it is 70% ethanol.
Sure, but like, if it's, they know there's hydrogen peroxide in it. No one's trying to drink it so far, right?
Who knows?
I know when I worked at the state mental hospital, the kids and the AODA ward would pour salt on the hand sanitizer to get it to separate out the gel from the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they slurp that down. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried that, but I do remember when I was younger, it would be the Aqua Velva.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I never went that far. I did drink, what was it? Vanilla extract once. Got drunk on vanilla extract.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have even thought of that one. So, it's funny. When I started, I grew up in Cape Breton Island. So that's the east coast of Canada. It's called the Maritimes because we were merry most of the time. We were drunk most of the time. So at the age of 13, I learned how to make my first still. And I was out in the back of Grandma and Grandpa's farm and out in the backwoods by the hydro lines. And yeah, that's where I learned my craft. So I grew up making molasses shine.
Yeah, but I didn't realize you actually had customers coming in to buy hand sanitizer right from you. I assumed you were shipping this out.
Probably 95% goes out the back door to the hospitals, and it goes out in 5-gallon pails. But there's a lot of, well, once again, they're from a pizza shop. So they have a requirement as well. There's truck drivers. We supply a fair amount of truck drivers that need it, and they can't get it anywhere. So we do our darndest to try and keep our front stocked as well. We constantly run out, but I've only ever made it down to one bottle. I've never ever been completely sold out. So, they come in, they grab one. What goes out the back door tends to go for donation. What goes out the front door is keeping our doors open.
Sure. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah,
and
because
then you're making enough money to make up for not putting out actual consumable stuff then, right? Like
well,
you're doing okay.
Yeah, we have very low profit on it. Yeah, I would not want to try and survive on it. That's for sure. The nice thing, I guess we could say, is that the sanitizer has brought people in that didn't know we were here, and we hear that a lot. Wow, we didn't know you were here. Well, they come in, and then you saw the sample bar. We typically, if they're not underage like you just saw, we would try and talk them into a sample. And it's not too often someone leaves here without having a bottle in their hand.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and once again, I make sure that everyone gets to try it. I don't want anyone to ever walk out of here without, understanding what they're getting. To me, it's and you as well. You have been caught several times where you've bought this bottle, you've heard about, you've listened to the reviews, you've bought it at the local liquor store, you get it home, you spent, now maybe not you, but I have spent $400 or $500 on a bottle. I get it, I crack it out, and I go, this is shit.
Right.
We don't ever want.
I've had bottles like that. But I have the nice insurance policy of having a channel that needs a lot of those kind of bottles. So yeah, it's just, and because we all have different tastes, and you try to find someone on these channels that has similar taste to you, and it doesn't always work out. But yeah, it's you're guessing when you go to the liquor store. So we wanted to make sure that never happened here. We wanted to make sure that if someone goes out the door, they know exactly what they're enjoying. Yeah. And I think I heard you say earlier in the stream that your moonshine's doing very well.
Oh, it's doing exceptional.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, we were quite happy with it. We were supposed to be firing up vodkas for this week, for this month. The 1st of April, we were planning on running the vodka towers, and we are running the vodka towers, just not vodka.
Not for vodka. Yeah.
Although, I'm running, let me get my head out of the way. So I'm running the copper tower, which I run for everything. That does everything. Mm-hmm. But I'm also running this tower. And with just those two, I'm getting just above 90% ABV.
Wow.
So it's really kind of, we're getting some testing done while we're doing this, which is kind of nice. But yeah, even at 90, now it is just straight corn, which is not our recipe for our vodka. Sure. But even at 90, it's really tasting clean. So we're kind of happy and looking forward to what we're going to do with that, especially when we get to the gins.
So, and this was actually something I was talking about with a gin producer recently, is the idea of using a lower distilled make for a gin and what effect that would have. Because, most people are just using grain neutral spirits.
Right.
What do you think about that? Would you ever experiment with something like that?
Oh, yeah, we are. We already are. I don't know if you remember my small still, but that we're playing with that, on a regular basis. So we're actually doing some, because we have several different styles of gin we want to do, juniper heavy and coriander heavy, they're getting the botanicals are being soaked, and they're we're soaking for 3 or 4 days, sometimes a week, and we're actually doing that in a 40%, and then we redistill that. So that carries that over. Now, is that the whole thing? Are we going to do the whole thing that way? No, not at all. But it's like doing, have you ever had apple pie moonshine?
Sure.
Okay, so
you will notice the difference of a grain with the apple stuff added to it, as opposed to an apple brandy run through a still and then the apple put into it. It's a huge difference. A still can't carry over full flavors. So going from the pot to the condenser, that's not going to carry over full flavors, but it's going to carry a body. And when you add to that body, it makes something well beyond what your expectation would be. So, and you can tell the difference. So when we do our apple pie moonshine, and we're calling it apple crumble, that'll be later this fall. We're going to be fermenting the apple cider, and then we're going to put it in. We're going to run an apple brandy first, and then we'll come back and we'll flavor that up with the pie ingredients and everything else. And we actually may end up trying, that's one of the things we're going to try, is putting the apple pie seasoning into our gin basket and trying to run it through there as well.
Okay, cool. So now when you say you're actually soaking these things in make and then you're distilling them, are you also running things through a basket? And what's the difference there? Like, is one more flavorful, one more, do you get different flavors from that?
I'm trying to figure out exactly what you meant by that.
Because you said one, like with your gin, you're soaking some of it in like you said, 40% alcohol. Yeah. Are you also running it through a basket of stuff then too?
Oh yeah. Because this, once again, by doing the soaking, especially when you do juniper, that changes the whole base. The whole base character is changed, and it embodies that character. Are you going to chase, like if you took that and just drank that, you're not going to say, oh, that's just straight juniper. No, but you're going to get that hint. Now, as we add to it, and we'll put some more junipers into there, and we'll put in some more other spices that'll go into the gin basket here. As we add that, it greatly enhances what you're enjoying. The molecular changes are phenomenal. Whereas if we just did a vodka and then threw the stuff into the gin basket, it'd be a whole different animal.
Sure, and that's kind of what I was wondering. Was it's not one or the other? It's both. It really is both are contributing flavor.
Right. To give a whole body to it, you need to have you need to have your base spirit somewhat enabled to do the rest. And that was why I went. That's why I went to the apple pie analogy. Is typically most distilleries, moonshine distilleries, would take their white moonshine and then add the cider, the apple juice, the spices, cinnamon sticks, and all that, and that's their apple pie. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a nice little flavor, but it's almost a surface flavor, and then you get the grain and you get the corn and all that. Whereas if you do a brandy, it's a whole different animal, and the flavor is magnificent.
So you're kind of starting out with like gin brandy, kind of. I mean, I know it's not brandy.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it. Yep.
Yeah.
Now that's for something that we're going to heavily do. We want. Typically, there's going to be a citrus side to that. So because the citrus carries a lot of flavors as well. So we want to enhance that base. Now we can also do, like you said, a neutral green spirit. And we will do that when we're doing florals. So when we're doing a hibiscus or a rose, we're going to want to lighten off the base and do the neutral grain so that you can recognize when you're partaking, you can recognize those florals in there and be able to discern, okay, that is a rose petal, and yeah, there is coriander and yeast and everything else in there, but I can get those florals. And so you have to be careful on the base when you're doing a floral. You got to be light. The juniper, once again, there's so many different juniper berries. We've actually planted out here blueberry juniper because the first year berry is very light. So we'll pick the first year berries for something that's a floral. The second year berries are really heavy, oily, and God, you wouldn't want to drink them straight. But anyways, they're that type of juniper, and that's the most popular one. So we'll definitely use that as well as some others to enhance our citrus.
Sure. Okay. But you don't want that really heavy, oily thing to overwhelm that really the nice floral, the nuanced floralness.
You can't. I mean, if I did heavy juniper and then try to run a floral, you would never taste it. You would never get it. Yeah.
Which is why like something like Hendrix is they talk about it being like rose petal forward.
Yep.
As opposed to like some of the London dry stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. It makes a difference in the final. And are
you going for a very like traditional London dry, or are you going for more like these the new American style? It's a little more sweet, or are you going for across the board different stuff?
Well, it depends on who's doing it. If it's me, it's going to be a London dry, just going to suck your mouth out. Whereas Lisa likes to add a little more to it. So she likes the floral expression. She likes some of the citruses. And, delicate and well balanced. Me, no, I'll hit you in the face with a board.
Nice. Well, and actually, one of the things I've been really interested in recently is like barrel-aged gin. I mean, as a whiskey head, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys consider doing anything like that, or if that's something you want to do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And, nice thing is you don't need to do it long to get the results you want.
Sure.
So it's not like whiskey. Whiskey in Canada has to sit in a barrel for 3 years and a day before it can be called whiskey. Whereas a gin, you're looking for just an enhancement of the wood. So 6 months, 8 months, depending on the region and what the wood does. That's enough to, and really the wood is only, at this point in time, it's just a little enhancing flavor. So yeah, you have to watch it. But, that also allows us to play with some extra wood. So we have white oak barrels here, but we can do some French oak and we can do some red oak as well, and we can do some apple. So we can take the barrel that we've thrown a gin into, and we can throw in apple wood, we can throw in cherry wood, and in that, you can't make a barrel out of this, but that wood does impart a flavor, which is fantastic. So we've done some experiments over the year of trying that, and we've been happy. So we're going to revisit that once we get our baseline done. So yeah, we've got 10 years of experiments to catch up on.
Well, especially, and then once you get into used barrels, I know the people down here in Milwaukee, who is that? The Rehorse people over at Great Lakes, they're using Zinfandel and ex-bourbon barrels for their aged gin.
So we've actually got 5 brandy barrels here, so ex-brandy barrels, and we're actually putting our moonshine in it.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm not a big fan, and I had said several times that I would never barrel anything with sugar in it. And our moonshine does. It's a half grain, half sugar. So, and we actually convert all the grains out of all the starches out of the grain into sugars, fermentable sugars, and we do that. So it gives us that nice extra flavor. But once we started trying it, and once we got the blend where we're really happy with it, I'm going, well, you know what? Let's try it. So we tossed it into a brandy barrel and we tried it. And, 2 months later, we're giving it a sip and going, let's get some more barrels.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Well, I can imagine that being really good. I feel like brandy barrels, for me, a lot of the time they can add a little spiciness, but also I tend to get like kind of a cotton candy thing sometimes off of a brandy barrel.
Yep, you'll get some of that.
Being pretty fun with that moonshine you're making.
Yeah, it's really neat because once again, our moonshine is on the drier side. It's not a heavy oily product. So we've gone with a 3-grain blend, and it's really at 100 proof. You can down it, and it's not going to burn you. It's really very pleasant. So barreling it at 62 proof or 62%. We're going to see what that pulls out, but we're pretty sure, of how it's going to go with our tests, and it's going to be unique, and it is fantastic. I really liked our samples, so I'm curious to see when we get that, and we'll see how long it takes, because once it's an aged moonshine, so I don't have to have a timestamp on it. So, and that's kind of what we're doing. So once we get it to a decent color and the taste is where I want it to be, yeah, we'll bottle it and market it.
Sure. So let me ask you, what's the trick for something you wouldn't age, right? What is the trick for getting that, like, for a new make or vodka or whatever? What is the trick for getting that smoothness that your average consumer is really looking for?
There's
How do you
lots
get
of
that on
things you can
display?
do. Yeah, there's lots of things. Now, Canada has some different rules than the US does. In our spirits, it's the 9.9 rule. So 9.9% can be whatever the hell you want.
Sure. Oh yeah, because they
Yeah.
wanted to mix in like juice or whatever flavoring. Yeah.
Right, there's a lot of that. And you know what? We did some tests where we did a vodka and we had a bit of rye to it, and it was really impressive. So yeah, it's not where we're gonna run our vodka, but it was impressive. Some of the other tricks are glycerin. So you can use, now I'm going through a shitload of glycerin just for sanitizer. I was always, I figured if you had to use glycerin, you did something wrong because you're trying to smooth it out. Another thing is, with vodka in Canada, before we can call it vodka, it has to come off the still at 95%, and we have to filter it through charcoal. So how much charcoal? Not really telling you, but we have a 6-foot pipe that we send it through for vodka. And you can change that. So if you put an apple wood or the maple wood, or, depending on what you do for there, that's mellowing it. That's, doing the finish on it as well. So now you've got glycerin, you've got the charcoal, gum powder. So GUM.
What?
Yep, xanthine, something like that. That is an additive you can throw in. It really smooths out the rough edges. I don't know if we have any here. I know we were playing with it for liqueur, but I don't think I still have it. It's also a bit of a thickening agent too, and that's what we were using it for. We weren't trying to knock a flavor down. We were trying to make the liqueur we were after more of a creamy. So although still clear, but like a cream on your tongue. So we were going after what it could do for the effect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was something you could add. That's crazy.
Yeah. So there's other things. Those are the ones I'm familiar with. But yeah.
Yeah. So no, I'm curious because to my understanding, I mean, vodka in the United States is very similar. I mean, you got to get up to 95. You have to filter it afterwards.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize Canada had a rule that you had to use charcoal filtering. Now, I'm pretty sure most people use charcoal anyway, but I don't know if that's a requirement in the United States, as far as I know.
I'll check further because I was pretty sure it was just charcoal filtering, but yeah, it maybe not. But once again, it's the way we're doing it. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious if there are other ways, or I mean, obviously you think about like Jack Daniels and the Lincoln County process. I mean, that's obviously the preferred way. I'm just wondering if there's other ways to do it.
Yeah. I thought of doing the 12-foot pipe, and I thought, nah. Yeah.
Well, and actually, out of curiosity, like I've had some pretty bad vodkas in my life. Like
we all have.
They taste like gasoline.
Yep. Crystal Skull.
They're all coming off still at 95%, right? Is pretty much all that bad taste just coming down to the amount of filtration, or is it also how you distill?
Oh no, it's actually, you know what? And it's funny because, and I try this. Try Crystal Skull, try Finlandia, and some type of Russian potato vodka. Try all three straight, right beside each other. And you can actually tell what's corn, what's barley, and what's potato. And although there's the majority of the vodkas we see do tend to have corn in them, that's probably my least favorite. It's if we're talking rock gut review, yes, the corn. Potato better. Sweet potato. I've had beet as well. I don't think it's better. It's got a flavor to it. They all have a flavor, even though there's supposed to be no flavor. Vodka, if done right, does have a bit of a flavor to it. So I'm partial to a barley. So doing a mash bill with a barley and a rye into it, it gives just those notes that I desire. So, yep. Yeah, give it a try. Not all vodkas are the same. You've had shit vodka, and yeah, you can pick out what's what pretty quickly.
Well, and I've definitely had. I mean, I like Sobieski because that's a rye vodka, and I understand the Polish and the Russians distill it slightly less than us.
Yep.
So there is a little bit more flavor, which I've appreciated. But I will tell you, when you talk about the potato, and I think I had a potato versus a wheat from the same producer. I guess I didn't notice the amount of flavor being too different, but the oiliness and the what was it? Like the amount of alcohol burn was very different between the two.
Yes. Yeah. Now we have a fellow up here, and he's using a Genoa still, which is it's a high tech still, and they're made in I think Poland. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on it. Anyways, it does very small batches, and his recipe, I wouldn't want to handle that recipe. I've seen him do it, but he's got sweet potato, he's got rice, he's got barley, he's got about 7 different things in this to make his mash. And when he pulls that off the still, and with the way the still works, it's fantastic. It is really an amazing vodka, and he will never ever be able to produce enough to get his name out. We do have a bottle of it. When you come up, I'll share it with you,
Okay.
because you'll be impressed by it, and it is impressive. But there's no way his still, and there's no other way to scale up the still. There's no way that still could keep up to any type of production. So it's the give or take. It's a superior vodka, no doubt. I mean, I could easily see $200 for the bottle. It is that good, but yeah, it's vodka. It's not going to sell.
Sure. Yeah. That's too bad.
Because you know what? Very few people buy a vodka to drink straight or to throw on the ice.
Right.
Well, for you, it's a Bloody Mary. For us, it's Caesars. It's martinis, this and that. So it's a feel and an enhancement for other beverages.
Right.
Myself, I do. Occasionally, the wife will throw a Caesar at me, but yeah, I prefer to try it straight. So, have you ever tried Crystal Skull?
I have not tried Crystal Skull.
Okay, when you do finally pick up that gorgeous little Crystal Skull, also pick up a Brita filter, because you're going to have to run it through there 10 times.
Okay.
After the 8th time, it starts becoming palatable. The 10th time, it's actually a drinkable product. So yeah, and that is 100% corn. So it's a corn sugar wash.
So that one needed a longer filtration, huh?
It's a corn sugar wash, from my understanding. So yeah, it's harsh. And once again, if you try, find out what the vodka is, you can actually start picking up what's made from what. So when you have a vodka that you're unfamiliar with, you'll know if it's a corn or a barley. It's a pretty obvious taste.
Sure.
So that might be where you're finding, because corn is so cheap to do that it becomes all of a sudden the scapegoat for doing a vodka. It's cheap, it's fast. Why not? It's in most people, the majority of people are mixing it with something, so they don't know the difference. The label's cool, great. But yeah, for someone who's looking for the flavors, yeah, a corn one's not my favorite.
Yeah, I could have. Well, I mean that's a problem you run into with young corn whiskeys. I mean, obviously here in the States, it's all distilled much lower than vodka is, 80% or whatever. But I could see because of how much funk there is on a young corn whiskey, how much of that green. I always say it tastes like eating a yew tree, like a raw, like you chopped into a yew branch and just started chewing on it.
Yep.
I could imagine even just a little of that making it through could make for a really funky experience.
and that's, geez, I hate to say this, and I don't want to sound derogatory because we all have different flavor profiles we like. It's but that exact what you're talking about is the typical moonshine in America. It is that funk. It is that oiliness. That I'm just going to grab all the corn out of the cow's mouth and chew it myself. It's yeah. And the only one I've ever, honestly, the only really nice moonshine I've had from the States is Popcorn Sutton's. And I was lucky enough to be able to get some of his. And yeah, I'm going to say I don't know how he ran it. And once again, I don't know what batch it was from, but it's probably the closest to ours. It's not quite there, but it's really close to what we do. And it's funny because I had my recipe done a few years ago, and we just within the last month tried the popcorn. So it was kind of neat.
Well, and I will say, we've had a couple. I know the Buffalo Trace. What do they call it? I think they're called theirs the White Dog. I mean, it's technically a whiskey because they aged it for 5 seconds. That one's actually excellent. You get like a very fruit. It's very fruit forward. It's actually doesn't have a lot of that really diesel taste. That mixture of like diesel and young wood. But like. There are other ones I've had, like the PBR whiskey. I don't know if you guys have that up there.
I recognize it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, the Pabst Blue Ribbon released a whiskey that was, I think it was 52% corn, 30 some odd barley, something like that.
Okay, well you said Pabst Blue Ribbon, that's enough.
Yeah, it's. I think it would be really, really interesting if they aged it for 4 years, 5 years. But drinking that is like drinking coffee cut with turpentine. I mean, there are some people. I think there are some people online who liked it. I was not a fan.
Well, and that's it. I mean, we can only ever tell people what we like and what we strive to enjoy. And as you're going through this, you find someone, and you watch all the other YouTube channels as well. So you find someone who's very similar to your taste profile, and that's the guy that you tend to go to. Because they'll like stuff, and I've had some moonshines that were just raved about, and I thought, oh, okay, well, this is the #1 moonshine in America and everything else, and I gagged on it. Okay, well, maybe someone likes this. I think my product when I was 13 was better, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, and with us, as you say, that heavy, diesely, oily flavor, I don't desire that at all. That's why even our moonshine runs through this copper tower. So yeah, we make it a drier spirit, and we've had this discussion before where everybody says, well, it strips out flavor. It doesn't. It refines it, makes it a drier, not as oily. All the flavor is still there. Yeah, so that's.
Well,
we'll make a believer out of you.
I think that's an interesting point because that was something I was talking about on my stream a little bit earlier. I think we were talking about Compass Box's No Name #2 versus Hardback Kelpie. I don't know if you've had either of those, but
I haven't had it. No.
Yeah, well, it was just the idea that I think they both have a lot of flavor, but you had one, which is the Ardbeg, which came off as super oily, super heavy, big mouthfeel, very extreme in its flavors. And then you had another, the No Name, which was much more nuanced and subtle. It didn't lack for flavor. It's just that it didn't bash your teeth in with a 2x4.
Yeah.
You know. I
So,
think,
and
I
that, so that really depends on how your profile is, what you like. So do you like that it sits on your taste buds, it drowns them, and it sits there and just kind of waddles around for a while? Or do you want it to just go in, enjoy it, clean palate, ready for the next? So,
right. Well, I think I wonder, to a certain extent, I think I've come to appreciate drier, more subtle, more nuanced things as I've gotten older. I think I was very much, I still am drawn to those extreme flavors, but yeah, it's you come to not need to be kicked in the balls every time you have a drink.
and you know what? I'm not going to generalize everybody, but we all go through stages in life. For me, when I was, when I was in my late teens and 20s, yeah, I drank for effect. I didn't really care what I drank. I could easily polish off a bottle or a Mickey of cognac, and I loved cognac back then. But I also loved Lamb's Navy 151 proof, and yeah, I could barrel through that too. Um, that's not happening nowadays. I still like my cognac, but yeah, I'm just sipping it. So yeah, now, and there's something that's really kind of neat is when we started in the distillery, we never ever sit down with a dram, a 1 ounce dram. We never sit down. We sit down with about 5, 10th ounces just for the flavor, and we try the different flavors, so we try to match them and everything else. So it becomes a bit of an exploratory every time. And same with beer. At one point in time, we used to order a pitcher and have pizza. Now we go, and the wife and I will split a flight.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a natural progression, is moving away. That's, I was talking about this with Erica the other night, was I really like how liquor tastes, but I'm becoming less and less interested in the psychoactive effects of it.
Yeah.
As I get into my older age.
And that's the same thing here, and I think that was probably the biggest surprise. But once again, we're fortunate enough, even at our age, that both our parents are still alive. They're still around. So when we had planned this, and we've been working on the plan for about 5 years, and we had friend with another distillery, so that allowed us to do a lot of things. And he was actually watching what we were doing really closely because he's actually used some of our little techniques. So, and we were exploring and trying to expand that which we had already done in the past, and to bring it to where we thought we could do this. So when we finally announced, and we got this facility last January, my wife didn't actually tell her parents until I think it was July of this year or last year. So we'd already been into 6 months of having the place before she said anything. And my parents, I told them right away what we're going to be doing. They kind of looked going, neither of you drink. Fair enough. It was a valid statement. I mean, we'd go, I'd buy a 6-pack of beer in the spring. I'd have 2 left in the fall. And, so it was a valid thing. They were surprised it wasn't coffee, because I go through at least 20, 30 cups a day. So it's,
sure.
Yeah. And you wonder why I'm hyper. So
you are untireable.
So it just came down to, you know what? We're not in it for the effects. That's, although once again, we do our moonshine at 100 proof, not 80. Why do we do that? Because when we tried it at 80, we didn't like it. When we tried it at 90, it was getting better. When we tried it at 100, it matched a lot of the whiskeys I enjoy. So that, the intensity of the alcohol changed the flavor of what I was enjoying. So that's why we went to that. Now, if it was 98, that's what we'd be doing. So it all came down to just what that flavor with that alcohol level is. So yeah, we went 100 proof, but the flavor was there. So yeah, and we just do small little samples of everything. And thank God I don't, when running the sanitizer, I don't have to sample any of it.
Yeah, it would probably be pretty detrimental to your health if you did.
Well, no, I imagine the like when I get to the hearts cut on that stuff, is some of it has actually pretty tasty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was surprised because we never used Red Star yeast, and trying to find, well, what we would typically normally use and what we use in our product is way too expensive to make for sanitizer. To blast through these mashes the way we're doing, I'm not going to use my expensive yeast. So, and I had done experiments. We've used some bread yeast before. So typically we're going to do everything with bread yeast. Well, the one that we would normally want to get, not available. So all that was left was Red Star from Costco. And I'm looking at it, I go, oh, well, you know, 4th of July. So we had some issues with it. We believe we got them all sorted. But yeah, when we were running it and when we didn't blast through trying to jam everything through these towers, we did just a test. We did an 8-hour distill. So 1,000 liters, 8 hours to run it. We did collect the heads and the foreshots because it's sanitizer. But when we got to the hearts, we took a couple of cups and we tried it out to see what the flavor is going to be with the Red Star. And it is significant. We can significantly notice what it is. And we can actually see a use for it down the road for something else, which is, you know, kind of a neat. So that's filed in the back of our head. But yeah, we've done a sanitizer run where I've loaded, that's still there. And I blasted through those towers in 3.5 hours.
Wow.
You didn't want to taste that one.
I believe it. That had to be harsh as hell.
Oh, it was nasty. It was freaking awesome.
So what's the flavor profile? What's that flavor profile that the Red Star gives it? Like what is that be useful for?
It's a bread yeast. So yeah, you're getting, and I am probably the worst person in the world to try and describe this. That's why I don't have a whiskey tasting channel. I have a how to do this shit channel.
Right.
So yeah, my palate is growing. It's a more of a, God, I can't say earthy because that's a whole different flavor. It is a more of a yeasty. It's like that fresh tea biscuit that's come out of the oven.
Okay.
So I don't know how familiar you are with tea biscuits. I'm not going to say it's a bread. It's more of it comes along with a tea biscuit flavor, and leaning towards maybe a cornbread style without that spike of the corn. But yeah, I can see use for that in the future. It wouldn't make a shit vodka, but I could see it being used in a base for something.
Okay. See, now I'm just hungry for cornbread, man. You got me thinking about cornbread.
Well, once again, I grew up in the East Coast, so and we're getting into rums this fall, but I grew up with molasses. Now, a bit of a funny story. In the East Coast, we didn't have maple syrup. I never, ever knew what maple syrup was. So on our pancakes and our oatmeal, we had fancy molasses. So, and there's nothing in this world I love more than a nice, hot, fresh tea biscuit, a little bit of butter and molasses onto it. It's heaven. It's dessert for me. And then I met my wife. You know, we're in her 20s, and she takes me to her parents' house in Quebec. And Quebec maple syrup, sorry everybody if there's anyone here from Quebec. Quebec maple syrup is they forget to light the fire on the damn boiling pot. It's just pure water you're pouring on top. So Lisa's mom makes some waffles, and I'd never had maple syrup. And they open up the can, they pour it on the waffles, and I'm looking at it and going, okay, well, I've heard of it, so let's see what this tastes like. Do you have any corn syrup? How about molasses? So it wasn't until I got to Ontario that Lisa's, the wife, she goes, well, let's try it again. So she got me some dark maple syrup. I go, wow, this is freaking awesome. Now I know what you folks are talking about. Yeah, Quebec maple syrup. Yeah. Ugh.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I guess don't go there for that. I never realized.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I grew up with molasses on everything. When it was a special occasion, we would have corn syrup.
Okay.
So, yep.
Yeah. Huh. Weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I ever tasted molasses until I was grown up.
And
Yeah.
you have to be cautious because there's two types. There's the black strap, which is for cooking and for making rum. You need a fancy molasses, and the nicest one, in my opinion, is Crosby's, and you can get that in the States as well. So Crosby's fancy molasses, if you ever try it or want to, just get some of that, bake some fresh tea biscuits or scones, and put a little bit of butter on, put some of that molasses on. It is freaking divine.
Okay. I will say though, my mom used to make like molasses cookies. I never had just molasses on its own until I was adult. I didn't have
Molasses ginger.
So yeah.
Yeah, they're freaking awesome
Can I ask
too.
you something? I just had a thought. You mentioned you're like making potato vodka, and your friend was making vodka out of sweet potatoes.
Yep.
What is the process for fermenting a potato? Like, I understand grain. What do you do with a potato? How does that work?
You make mashed potatoes.
Okay.
And actually, yeah, the alpha amylase will convert it, so it'll take the starches. And what you're doing is you're trying to get the starches out of it.
Right.
And the first few times, being naive, and I still am in a lot of things, but I thought, yeah, potato vodka, that makes vodka, and didn't know a whole lot about vodka at the time when greeting Caesar Bloody Mary. So I thought, okay, well, let's just try potatoes. We'll try the experiment. We'll chop it. We'll dice it. We'll mash it. You don't have to go with a hard mash, just a lumpy thing. And alpha amylase will convert those starches out. So, and that's what you're after, is just to convert the starches over to sugars. Sweet potato. Now, once again, I didn't know. So I was using white potatoes from Ontario, and they have almost no freaking starches in them. Like no convertible starches. So I didn't know that. So
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah, I had to look into it, and certain potatoes are far more starch or convertible starches. So you have to actually pick which potato you're doing. When you start looking at it, the best thing you use is yams. Go sweet potato. That's one of the best converters.
Sure. Is it sweet? I mean, sweet potato, you would think there's already some sucrose or fructose or whatever in there already.
I would imagine there is. I can't be definite on it, but yeah, it's higher in starches. It converts a lot easier. Same with sugar beets, and we haven't played with that yet. We want to do some sugar beets and possibly look at that with a vodka.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, you have to also weigh up, is it nowadays? I actually have to look at it for production. I can no longer entertain myself with doing little 5-gallon batches and think, oh, that's good. I now have to think about running it on this and doing a lot of it. So yeah, do I want to have to peel that many beets? And what am I going to look like when I'm done it?
Yeah, that's a lot of preparation.
That's a lot. That's like, we did promise the public our limoncello. It's 45 days to make the shit. And, 1 week of that is me peeling freaking lemons. It's butt ugly to do. And, if you're looking at, like right beside me here, so that white tote, if I do that white tote in limoncello, I'm going to die. But that's the size I've committed to once a year. So, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's gonna suck. It's because we did some, and when we did all our testings for whether or not we wanted to bring products out and actually do this, limoncello was one of ours, and our coffee was a signature one. Limoncello was another one, and then we looked at it going for production. We sat and we committed to it, and then we said, you realize we have to do 1,000 liters of this shit, and it's gonna suck because I can't come out of doing a 5-gallon batch without my hands looking like they've been through a war.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking, if I'm going to be peeling that many, I'm going to get Kevlar gloves.
Oh yeah, I believe it. Yep.
Yep.
Your hands have to get raw and all eaten up. Yeah.
Yep. And then every little nick has citric acid going into it. Oh, it's wonderful.
Ooh, yeah. You better get some of those cut gloves, those Kevlar gloves, man. Yeah.
I actually do have them. I do have Kevlar gloves because, I figured I'd need them. But yeah, it's bad enough now doing this sanitizer shit.
Jeez.
When we started doing this, because I'm sterilizing every surface that a customer can touch when they come in after every customer.
Sure.
And I'm doing my hands and everything else. So after every freaking customer, it's a lot of extra work, which is fine. This way we're not being, I'm not going to say antisocial because, we're limiting the amount of people that come in. And when they do come in, they have to go to separate ends of the room so that, that way there's separation inside the distillery for everybody. It is a safe environment, as safe as we can make it, and still be a social a service that they need, an essential service. So as we're doing this, and when I first started, I'm washing my hands after every time and sanitizing. I'm going, this sucks. I don't even have to look at my hands to count how many cuts I have.
Oh man!
And the worst part is, I just finished moving some of these because, at first we couldn't keep up to our stills. And honestly, if I pump my stills, there's no way 6 fermenters can keep up to my stills. That's just not possible. So we're getting large totes in from breweries, and for stuff they can't do. We've got one brewery tomorrow. They're delivering 56 kegs.
56 kegs.
Kegs, and it's all valid beer. So we actually have to depressurize them all, open them all up, and throw them in the still.
Oh man! Well, have fun with that.
That's 1,600 liters of beer that I have to.
And that's all being turned into sanitizer.
Yep.
Wow.
I've already gone through those white totes, or 1,000 liters. I've already gone through several of those from another brewery, a large brewery, and they had like 30 of these freaking totes. So yeah, we're just barreling through that as well.
Is this just beer that they can't sell anymore? I mean, this is expired beer?
No, it's not expired. It was what was in. Now, some of them are large, like this one brewery is huge. It's a large brewery. I don't know if you've heard of Sleeman's and Waterloo Brewery and all that, but at Wellington Brewery, they are large craft breweries. And like probably what Molson's and Labatt's were about 30, 40 years ago. So they're a large size. And they just got caught. I mean, they've got room size fermenters that are just full, and they'd be using
get rid of it.
They can't do anything with it. Whereas this all these kegs coming down, they had just gotten everything in the kegs when all the restaurants were closed, all the bars are closed. What are they going to do with kegs?
Yeah. Well, at least it's not going to waste. I mean, at least you're doing something with it.
We'll turn every ounce of it into sanitizer and donate it. But I'm just I've got a kegerator at home. And I'm kind of thinking, oh, damn, it's full.
Take a little off the top. Who's got notice, right?
Yeah. There might be a glass as I'm pouring it in the still.
There you are.
And I don't know how much they've already carbonated these tanks. Depending on how long, if they fully killed the yeast or if the yeast kept going while it's in the tank, they'll be carbonated and pressurized. So opening these up, maybe I may have to wear a freaking suit. I've opened up kegs before, you know, when you remove that bung in the center, you got to push it down, turn it, and then there's a pipe. Actually, I got one in the back. There's a pipe that goes right to the bottom of the tank. So, yeah, you're not releasing any pressure. You're releasing liquid.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah. So if these things are pressurized, I'm going to need a complete hazmat suit.
Yeah. Jeez. You're gonna need like a pool or something just to stand in. Okay.
And I loved Brandon Malay. Any thoughts on juniper flavored hand sanitizer? No, not juniper, but we actually have essential oils here that we add in case the customer wants. One of them is a cedar wood, and it's freaking awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that one.
Weird question. I can only imagine it would be something bad, but what would happen if you put in a bunch of carbonated beer into your still and ran that? Like it couldn't. I mean, what would even happen there?
Well, I have an open air system, so it's not unless I flood a tower, it's not going to do any issue. What I do plan on doing though is bringing it up to temperature without the top on the still. So we look at the still, and let's see if I can actually get my finger in the right place. So that's where I pour it in. Now the stills are piped in, so you know having to pour something in is new to me. So I'll pour it in here, and it's a glass viewing window. I'll heat the still up. Once I get the still to about 150, 160, that should decarbonate everything.
Okay.
Because heat drives it right out. So yeah, that'll make it flat, and then I can just seal it up and just continue on from there.
Cool. I think I'm going to call it a day.
And so am I. I have got to finish emptying this freaking mash tun and then fill it back up and do another run.
Sure. Well, good luck with that, and good luck with the hand sanitizer, hey?
Hey, you know, Ed, thank you for coming on. I just thought I was going to be working over there and coming and answering some questions, but no, it's great. And, you know, I've been telling the people that I feel sorry I haven't been able to post up videos. I do have 2 videos sitting that I have to edit, and you know what editing's like. That's a time sucker. Yeah, and I thought I'd have some time, but yeah, I'm running constantly. This is the longest I have sat in 3 weeks, and it's been fantastic. So I thank you for the sit down time. It was great.
Well, thank you for having me on. This was a really great conversation.
Excellent. You take care.
Yeah,
stay
you
safe.
Take care and stay safe. Hey,
Yep.
Keep up the good work.
And we'll see you hopefully this fall.
Yes, I'm hoping that we can still do that. So.
Yep. Unless we do this again later on. But yep. Take care, Ed.
For sure. Cheers.
And for everyone else that's still around, hey, thanks for joining me. I was just going to have this running in the background and would go with that. And I was going to answer any questions you had. But yeah, it turned into a great conversation. Nice to have Ed drop in. So I appreciate it. All right. Thanks, folks. I'll get back on track as soon as I get a breath. And we'll get some really interesting content out. All right. We'll talk to you again. Take care.